Today's dedication is for Zahn, who gave me a very generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. The Gitrog Ravenous Ride versus Wart, Surdan the Shipwright, and Aragorn and Arwen. Plenty of lands, but nothing to do in the early game, not for a long time, so get rid of that. And again into a very similar hand. It's still just a turn 5 Gitrog monster, even though we can maybe refill our hand with this. Yeah, we'll have to go down a card. Okay, into a 2-lander, we can ramp a little bit, and we've got some big expensive stuff. The Daemogoth Titan always seems to make an appearance. We will keep this, get rid of Obnixilis, and draw into a Dolmen Gate on turn 1. Not particularly bothered about having the Shadow Spear just sat there, so we'll go for a Surveil land on turn 1. And we see a land on top, we will certainly keep that. Sol Ring for the Simic deck. So we know what we're drawing into here. That can be a forest into the Dolmen Gate. Our commander does have haste, so best to get down the gate as soon as we can. We should be able to curve out quite nicely into a turn 4 commander. Although that won't give us a chance to get down a big beefy creature, so maybe take a turn off and still go for a turn 5 Gitrog. The Lord of the Rings player going for a prized pig. Tidal Barracuda. Any player may cast spells as though they had flash, but no one can do anything on your turn. And a Nature's Law being cast at sorcery speed by the Wart player. I don't suppose the Simic player is going to do anything to make us regret holding on to Cultivate during his turn, but he might go for a wheel or something, and yeah, it's best to just go for the Cultivate at sorcery speed as well. So we'll get down a Bayou, and then that can take us into the sorcery speed Cultivate. Heliod's Intervention, going for X's 2 onto that. That is an instant, but again being cast as a sorcery. And might as well, if he wants to keep the Simic player from having too much mana, Sol Ring goes down, along with our Dolmen Gate. So maybe holding this player off from the Surdan. With 4 cards left in hand, a Mirkwood Trapper. When a player attacks you, target attacking creature gets -2 to power. And when a player attacks, if they aren't attacking you, then +2 to the power instead. And we get a 5/4 straight through Wart's turn again, so yeah, we'll go for, there's a Bane of Progress. Yeah, we'll just go for the Daemogoth Titan here, I think, so we don't have to discard any cards like we would with the Rotting Regisaur. And it might be that we get into some additional mana that means we can equip the Shadow Spear next turn onto the Gitrog, so we'll just play it out here, and if it goes down, then so be it. Leonor coming down over here, and in response there is a Harrow for the Wart deck, putting the plus counter on itself, so has, a couple of different powers here. A relevant land being played here by Surdan, that is Rivendell, and then holding up blue mana, so yeah, are they going to try and counter the Gitrog monster? I mean, they've swung in towards us, so that might suggest that their eyes are firmly fixed onto us. So maybe holding up the Greater Good at instant speed, and then we can just sack this and draw a bunch of cards. Maybe that's the way to go. Goblin Dark Dwellers from the Gruul deck. So 4/4 Menace enters the battlefield. You can cast an instant or sorcery, mana value 3 or less, without paying the cost. So they've got Harrow, Balagad Recovery, can grab something back, and Nature's Law. So see what they get here. Aiming for the Harrow, so gonna go up a land with that. Alright, a Garruk's Uprising will cantrip as well, but we are just holding up mana for the Greater Good here. Priority is being held up by these 2 players, so I think it's a wise move to not go for the Gitrog monster yet. Arcane Signet for Aragorn. Turn 5, and is missing land drops, unfortunately. Got into his blue mana via the rock though. Followed by Dawnbringer Cleric, so still it needs a different power in order to activate Coven. Needs 3 different powers for this. Luckily seeing this before Greater Good comes into play, because would have been able to destroy that otherwise. Exiling a Nature's Law from the bin here. Oh, they do get a plus counter with the Autumn Sovereign onto this anyway, so that will make the different power that they need. And there we see a Lightning Greaves from our opponent, so maybe he was holding up counter magic, maybe he wasn't. Want to try and cast the Greater Good on this player's turn, because if he wants to counter that, then hopefully it means he's not countering our commander. Plus the fact that we just want the counter magic out of his hand. And now seeing the commander with the Lightning Greaves ready. So, and the blue player's tapped out now, so maybe we can get the Gitrog monster down, although probably best to have Greater Good in and then make use of our haste next turn. That way any spot removal pointed at either the Titan or our commander we can make use of. Alright, so we have to choose a player in secret here. I'll just choose myself. It's quite arbitrary, I think. And we'll see if Círdan is able to have anyone cheat a permanent into play. Okay, we got a vote. And Aragorn got a vote. And the Simic player got a couple of votes. So this player able to cheat a Dragon Broodmother into play because he didn't get any votes there. Lightning Greaves goes on to Círdan. And we've drawn into a Nature's Law, which we can cast at instant speed, so Nature's Law into Greater Good would be quite nice, assuming that this thing doesn't go down in combat here. And this time the commander goes in at the left. So secretly going to vote again. And with additional cards in hand, I think cheating permanents into play is much more dangerous this time around, so I'll make sure that he gets a vote. May well be that he just draws a boatload of cards here, but if he does, we'll be able to cheat a permanent into play at least. Alright, this time it's us that doesn't have a vote, so we will be able to cheat in. Might as well be the Greater Good then, I suppose. Save us some mana. And the Trapper buffs this up, so that is now a 5/4 with Vigilance. And I suppose that means it's Gitrog Monster at the end of the Gruul player's turn, so that we can save some mana during the next turn cycle for more flash shenanigans. A Dragon Broodmother into play could devour something if it wants, but is just a 1/1 flyer. Going to be plenty of those in play after a few turns around the table. A War Room has come into play now, and just deciding to hold back the blockers, so we'll go through to the end step. Don't suppose it matters, we can all play at instant speed anyway. Get our commander into play for the first time, and the Broodmother making another blocker. Alright, and a Field of the Dead for us. Probably best to get that down now so that we can try and get into some additional lands. With the Gitrog monster, I'm going to have to go in at the left, and yeah, there might be double blocks here, but may not want to lose the Leonor, so we'll try it. Let's go Saddle onto the Titan, and equipping the Shadow Spear I don't suppose makes any difference because it's 9 toughness and it'll only be 7 power, so let's attempt this. We're at least getting rid of a blocker from this player's side of the board. Oh, of course, I'm forgetting all about the buff from this, so that's 6, 7, 8, 9, so maybe equipping the Shadow Spear would have been the right play because we could have rid of both of the blockers, but still not getting any damage through anyway, so don't suppose it matters. Alright, as I suspected, the damage is allowed through anyway, so that is 8 commander damage landed, and the Gitrog monster triggers. We get to sacrifice the creature that we saddled, so draw 11 cards in this case, and get a bunch of lands into play. We've already made a land for the turn. We have to be careful of that with the Gitrog monster because we'd be able to play one from the hand and obviously it would come in untapped. Unfortunately, drawing into Amulet of Vigor a little bit too late, but we'll say okay there. And that will get us into plenty of blockers that we need here. Gonna trigger the Field of the Dead 5 times, and then the Great Henge in our hand is free thanks to a big Gitrog monster, so might as well play that here. And I'm just thinking of trying not to discard too much. 3 visits, we can play 3 visits and Nature's Law, I think. Gain 2 life from the Henge, so we can shock down an Overgrown Tomb, I think, which can take us into Nature's Law. We've got a couple of forests left available to us, and we're at 7 cards in hand now, so we can surprise an opponent with the Galta, maybe? Yeah, we've got plenty of power and toughness to make this only cost 2 mana, so an instant speed Galta might be a good surprise on our opponents. Did all that during the damage step by accident. So yeah, probably just aiming for Galta and the Amulet of Vigor. Beginning of combat, Leonor will make another plus counter, and is going to take himself off Coven by making another 1-powered creature. And then a Damning Verdict, destroy all creatures with no counters on them. So that means probably getting down Garruk's Uprising in response would be the best idea. It cantrips us and it's not going to die to this board wipe. So priority is passed over to us. Let's go for the Garruk's Uprising. Might as well sacrifice the Gitrog as well to the Greater Good just for the sake of drawing additional cards. Be curious if the Gruul player doesn't have anything to do at instant speed here. Maybe just has 5 creatures in hand that he doesn't want to go down. Draw into Sakura Tribe Elder. Let's sacrifice the Gitrog monster, put him back in the command zone. It's noteworthy we could sacrifice the zombies as well, but we just draw 2 cards and discard 3, so we'd go down cards every time, which isn't necessarily the worst thing. if you just need to look at a few more cards. Alright, so there's some more mana. Definitely discard the Bloodghast, because that can come back out easily enough. I think Sakura Tribe Elder is running out of basics to grab, and yeah, we don't have... I think we've only got one basic forest left, so Misty Rainforest can go as well. Now this is where our haste is going to be invaluable. Noteworthy that one of the dragons did devour something, so that came in with plus counters on it and managed to survive the damning verdict. And the Simic player holding up a bunch of mana, that is 6 mana in total with 7 cards in hand, so yeah, God knows what that means. A War Room, going to draw a card. Boseiju goes onto our Field of the Dead. So Field of the Dead goes down, and we will use Boseiju's ability. We can't fetch out a green source in play at the moment. I don't think there's any green fetches. No, so we'll just go for the last forest available to us. And the Bloodstained Mire can grab one of the 2 basics that are left. So yes, to Bloodghast coming back out. And that will cantrip and draw us a card thanks to the Great Henge. And that is into the Phyrexian Soul Gorger. Tendershoot Dryad, that's a good one, making a token every single turn again. And I think they're pretty close to the City's Blessing. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They've got exactly enough for City's Blessing. Could sacrifice the Bloodghast here, draw 3, discard 3, but might as well swing in with it first, I suppose. And the 3/3 flies in our direction. So while all that blue mana's held up, it might be worth going for Gitrog, and then we can turn in over here through, what will it be? A 3/3 and a 2/2, so the buff on the Shadow Spear might be relevant. And if they want to block with the Tendershoot, then that's fine with me anyway. I'm forgetting about the buff from the Henge as well, so should be big enough to survive. So Tendershoot making the first 3/3 sap. We draw ourselves a Yavimaya, which I think is worth playing here with Bloodstained Mire and Ancient Tomb in play. Don't think any player that cares is struggling on green. Triple green could be relevant. Anyway, we'll try out our commander again, see if we get countered. Cerdon is holding up priority during our turn again, as we would expect. Doesn't look like it's being countered though, at least. So see what we draw into off our 2 cantrips. We're getting down to around half the deck being drawn here. And then we get into a canopy cover, which is going to make things easier for us. This player decided to scoop for whatever reason is going to get a ban for doing that. And there is Obnixilis as well, so we'll have to wait a turn or so for that, I think. Let's try this canopy cover first of all. That'll dictate what else we cast here. And now we've got the Simic player thinking. With canopy cover on the stack, they are not going to do anything, seemingly. Looks as though the Gruul player is, though. Maybe there's a Chaos Warp incoming. And that's exactly what it is, so don't think we need to draw more cards with greater good. We need to be careful that we don't deck ourselves, so let's try and get into something good off the warp. I don't think we got into anything there. We revealed a Homeward Path, so there we go, we got into another land at least. And canopy cover gets fizzled. So how much is our commander now? 9 mana. So we can afford to get down our commander again. We'll make landfall. Go for the Gitrog monster again. And draw a couple of cards again after replaying that. And there is an Honest Rutstein. We can return a creature from graveyard to hand, so we could do that on our Gitrog monster. Nykthos isn't terrible either. So we're just going to have to saddle up with the Bloodghast here, unfortunately, but relevant that it came back out with 3 power on it. We'll be able to hold up the Assassin's Trophy at least. So let's swing in again, we'll go in at the right. And they have 5 power to our 6 toughness. And we can trample through here. I think I'll go for a black mana now on the Bloodstained Mire actually, so that it's not a dead land. So make a swamp. Manage to deal damage to our opponent, they don't block any of it, so we get 7 commander damage through, and I think this is going to be a 2-on-1 anyway, so might be that we struggle to do anything against our 2 opponents. There is a Cavern of Souls, which is going to be very useful. We'll get the Nykthos in as well. Not sure if landfall is going to be all that useful to us now that we've got quite far into the game. We'll get down Demolition Field over the Yavimaya. Because like I said previously, there could be a Chord of Calling over here or something like that. It's just best not to give your opponents green mana if they're at least a little bit shy on it. Name Horror with the Cavern of Souls to make our commander indestructible. And Bloodghast triggers a few times, so we'll say yes to it and bring it back in for some more cantrips. And now we're just pretty much holding up Assassin's Trophy, I think. The Great Henge gets us into green sleeves. There's Damnation, Fire Shrieker on the commander could be useful. We want some form of hexproof really. Alright, a Fairy Mastermind. Whenever an opponent draws their second card, you draw a card. Maybe could have got that down in response to the Gitrog monster. Wanting to draw a card there, so we draw into Skull Clamp, which would be good with Bloodghast if we didn't have the Great Henge in play, but I don't think we're struggling on drawing too many cards, and we've got a sack outlet for it with the Greater Good anyway. So let's discard some creatures. We can fish one back out with Honest Rutstein. Completely forgot about the Amulet of Vigor previously as well. We could have got some more spells going once those lands came into play tapped. So I'll have to get rid of the Yavimaya as well, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more creature. We'll keep hold of the Yargle and Multani just because it's a bit of a meme card. I think that might be the biggest power in the deck actually, so it'd be funny to sacrifice that to the Gitrog. Delighted Halfling. That might fix a little bit of green mana. Lightning Greaves onto that. And there, Cerdant is back into play again, so there'll be some secret voting going on. Maybe blowing up the Lightning Greaves with the Assassin's Trophy might be a good idea. I think we are going to get a vote here for sure. I'll make sure that the Simic player gets one. Might be that this player with only 4 cards in hand gets a free permanent into play. Yeah, we got 2 votes, and I made sure to give the Simic player one. So we end up drawing into some more lands here, and our opponent gets to draw a card thanks to the Mastermind. You'd think they'd want to fix their green mana with Assassin's Trophy, so they don't necessarily get to hold up blue mana for a Swan Song or something, so yeah, Assassin's Trophy onto this might be as safe as it's ever going to get. Argument to be made for just blowing up the commander straight away, but Lightning Greaves goes well with lots of creatures, such as a Delighted Halfling. And they do decide to fix their green mana, able to get down a Birds of Paradise. The 2-1 in at us, so might be time to start equipping this with some lifelink, keep our life total up. Might be time for a Damnation next turn so that we can should be able to replay our Gitrog again and still do some damage, especially with Nykthos in play. So we may well see Wart for the first time here. We'll have a surplus of at least 3 mana, so able to make a copy of some decent sorcery. Yep, there's Wart the Rave Mother, and they've got 4 mana available thanks to a land drop. So could have Heroic Intervention or something in order to protect his board here. 3-3 comes in at us. 2-2, we'll probably get a couple of 3-3s as well in the form of Saprolings. Although wants to hold up as much toughness as possible apparently so that we can't get through with our commander, so just take the 5 damage. Now, do we grab something like Obnixilis with the Rutstein, or do we grab our Gitrog after a board wipe? Let's see what we draw into first of all. Okay, Marsh Flats. Do we have another swamp available to us? Yeah, we should have a snow-covered swamp left, but we'll play the Tainted Wood anyway this turn. So we could maximise the amount of green mana we make with Nykthos. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7 if we do it on the stack with this, but Magic Online's a bit weird in holding priority sometimes, so I'll just do it now. So that's 6 green mana floating. Our commander is getting to be a bit expensive, so we'll sacrifice it here. We will not put it back in the command zone. We'll draw 7 cards and discard 3. And there we see another decent one, that is Alpha Authority. It'd be good to play this as well. More protection in the form of Mithril Coat. So discard, a fetch, and Skull Clamp is pretty useless now I think. Our opponent draws a card with that Fairy Mastermind. Could draw 3 and discard 3 with Bloodghast as well, but I don't think we need to do that. We've got Cabal Coffers available to us. Might get an Urborg with the Gitrog ability. So it's Damnation first of all. And we'll see if he can protect that board or not, because again that might dictate how we play this turn out. If he has Heroic Intervention or something like that. Alright, we managed to wipe the board. Could be that he has Deflecting Swat to change the target of this. I mean, we've got that much mana and that many big creatures available to us, it might not matter at this point, but it's something to bear in mind. Go for the Honest Rutstein to try and grab our Gitrog back out. And we draw with the Great Henge into Demogoth Woe Eater. And do manage to get our commander back in hand, so let's make it uncounterable just in case. 37 cards left in the deck. I'm hoping that we can land Alpha Authority so that we can go Fire Shrieker and get rid of the Gruul player. Can't say no to either of these cantrip effects. Get into another board wiping Toxic Deluge, and more landfall with Rampaging Baloths. So let's try Alpha Authority, and that manages to land, that's good. We definitely want to get down Amulet of Vigour, I forgot about that previously. And just for the sake of it being funny, we'll play Yargle and Multani for only 5 mana. And again, that cantrips, because it's a big creature. Play ourselves a Cabal Coffers, might as well. I don't think I'm going to wait for the Urborg in hindsight. That will bring Bloodghast back out. I'll actually say no to it, just for the sake of not drawing more cards, because we have to start being careful. Tap the Cabal Coffers without an Urborg in play. Only gives us 6 black mana, but that's plenty. Play the Fire Shrieker with a mixture of green and black mana. Equip Fire Shrieker to Gitrog. And then with the floating mana we can go Mithril Coat to give it indestructible as well. And while we're doing equipment we'll gain some life with the Shadow Spear. And the Gitrog will be an 8/7 with lifelink. Finally through to attacks. I do appreciate my opponents playing this out. And we're assuming that we've got the Gruul player here, but maybe he's got a trick up his sleeve. So I didn't make much use of any of our landfall stuff here, stuff like Rampaging Baloths and the Obnixilis we mentioned previously, but I mean just ramping like crazy and getting a bunch of mana into play helps apparently. Oh, I actually forgot, in all that, I forgot to go for the saddle and do the meme thing with Yargle and Multani. Could have drawn 19 cards there. Oh well, managed to take that player out, maybe we'll get another chance to do it here. Discard 3 down to hand size, make it the big creature, Wayward Sawtooth and Spelunking doesn't matter while we've got the Amulet of Vigour in play. Well, the Simic player's not out of it yet, Salvala's Stampede, so free or wild, you get a creature card for each wild vote, and you can put a permanent from hand into play with a free vote. They've got 8 cards in hand, so we'll try wild. Oh, they've actually gone for wild, so it might be a means of manipulating, but we'll give them free and hope that they don't have anything decent in hand. Well, there's a Llanowar Elves. Not necessarily the best spell to play if you've got Mana Dorks in the deck. You want nothing but big fat creatures really. Well, managed to get into a Mind's Dilation. So there's that. Luckily we've got plenty of mana and plenty of means of drawing into additional cards so that we can just play them into this to counter them. Alright, but they just decide to scoop it there anyway. We were drawing into our own Tendershoot Dryad, some lands, even more means of drawing cards. Yeah, so again missed out on the Yargle and Multani meme thing, but like I said before, we were running low on cards in the deck anyway, and it may be that the Simic player can draw out the game long enough to have us deck ourselves, so if I thought about it I might have just left it anyway. But once again, it's an excellent game with the Gitrog Ravenous Ride. Hopefully you all continue to enjoy this commander. I think Modern Horizons will be due out within a week or so. Have you seen this video? Yeah, I'm not sure when it's coming out, but hopefully you all enjoyed it anyway. Like I said, big thank you to the patrons for their continued support as well. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.